get some more examples for you guys, just to make it a bit interactive. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Or you guys can respond in the chat if you can hear. Okay, perfect. All right, guys. Good morning again. Welcome to our session today. Our session today is around UX mapping and tax flows. All right, so I'll share my screen right away so we can get to it because we already spent some time. All right, one sec. All right, can you see my screen? Okay. All right, I'll take that as a yes. All right, guys, so good morning again. Welcome to our session today, a lecture today called UX mapping and tax flows. So it was ideally called sitemaps, but I felt UX mapping is a better ideal word to expand on what it means. All right, so I'll go through just three major sections today. I'll talk to you guys briefly about what UX mapping is, the benefits of it, and then the commonly used types of UX mappings and the characteristics of everything. I try to make the presentation a bit more informative so that I can send it right after the call, share it with you guys, but it will be easy for you to follow through. And I try to post some examples from some personal projects that I've worked on to kind of drive the importance or give some kind of clarity on what I'll be explaining today. All right, so let's go. Are you guys with me? All right. So yeah, so introduction, I'll talk briefly about the value of it, and I'll share some references with where you guys can do some more readings right after this lecture, because one of the characteristics of a UX UI designer is that research is going to be part of your workflow. So you need to get comfortable with doing your personal research. So I'll give you what you need to get started, but I really encourage spending more time doing research, because half the time in the job we're literally doing research, even if it's primary research or secondary research, or if it's just Google, right? So I'll share some references to credible and reliable sources where we can learn a bit more about all of those things that I'm going to share today. So first, I'll give a brief introduction about UX mapping, and then I'll share 4 commonly used UX mappings, and then I'll share some considerations that are necessary before you begin a UX mapping task, and then the final conclusion notes on summary of what we've discussed. Right, so introduction. Empathy maps, UX mapping is literally all the different kinds of maps that are necessary in UX, and they are empathy maps, customer journey maps, which is literally like user flow, experience map, and service blueprints. So these are like the primary, most commonly types of UX mappings, but these are like the core that every other thing can literally come from. So every other thing is like a combination of one of each or of several parts of it. So the most commonly ones that you would get to use, especially when you're starting out, will be empathy maps, customer journeys, experience maps, but service blueprints are a bit more technical. But all of these 4 primary areas are like the 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 infrastructural center of UX mapping, right? So empathy maps, customer journey maps, experience maps. I'll get into more details about this, but and service blueprints are different processes and have different goals, but yet they all kind of build a common ground within the organization. So the goal of UX mapping is to lay out is basically to break down, it be to break down complex processes. The goal basically is to give clarity, right? So when you break things down in smaller chunks and you're able to, it makes it easy for brainstorming and make it easy for you to be able to look go back and forth and look at what you're doing and see how the user's experience can be altered or be made better at different standpoints or different points or different journeys in their life or in their user journey, right? So basically it is important with us when we're designing because it helps gives us that clarity. It is something we do before we begin our design task. It is part of the ideation pro no it is part of the define the definition part of our user experience process. It is that part where we gather insights to help inform what our design decisions are going to be. It is the part where this is literally the part where we spend understanding who the users are, understanding what their emotions are like, understanding what type of person they are so that we can better inform our design decisions as we progress. So it would help us inform, okay, based on our understanding of who these users are, how they feel, their emotional state, what are their motivations and the way they think, the way they feel, right? That helps us inform, okay, what is the best experience to provide such users who experience this kind of thing in a certain period and a certain way, right? So basically this all of these things I put in the presentation is so you can go through it afterwards. But I don't want to have to read all of them, but just okay, just for the sake of the flow, I'll just go through it. So designing and developing like a product often involves like large team of people with different backgrounds and experiences who must be on the same page about project goals. So it is also like a part where in an agile team. So if you for you as UX designers will most likely work in agile environments. What agile means is you work in an environment where you have other stakeholders and other people that are relevant for your goals. So you're not in isolation as a UX designer. You work in an agile team, which means you'll be on your team would not just be you as a UX designer, but will also be someone from sales, someone from marketing, someone from engineering, someone from the product end, and the stakeholders just to get insight enough. That is where you would plan like a product roadmap, right? So it is a process, it is like a brainstorming session where every stakeholders and every parts come together to gain clarity, right? But as a UX designer, you're literally housing or taking on the responsibility of that process, right? But it is a period where you get clarity on an understanding of who the users are, and not just you getting clarity, but it is also an avenue or um it is like an avenue for you to align your expectations with other members of the team, like the product team, the engineering team, and the sales team, right? So your agile team basically. So it is a process, is a place where you marry where you make sure you guys are on the same page, you guys agree on what the users are, what their expectations are, what the best experience is to build for them. And it's easy to talk through those experiences when you lay down those experiences in a flow, or when you map out those experiences. That way you can see clearly the areas that are going to be of concern. You can see, oh, how do we solve for the best experience in this particular at this particular point in the user's journey. When the user gets to this point, how do we solve for this? Right? So engineering can better advise and say, oh, in this case, I think this is the best tech that we can provide to solve this fix. And based on your insight on who the users are, you can then advise and say, oh, because of the technical understanding of who these users are, I feel this is too technical a solution to solve for this. And engineering can get right there on the spot. Engineering can begin to recommend other possible solutions that they feel that if they attempt, it would help solve that problem. And then you go back and forth until you guys align or are on the same page or come to a common understanding of what should be about, right? So mapping literally makes sense of and describe various aspects and processes associated with a product. So it brings clarity to all the different stages and processes that has to do with the product, which is understanding at what point does the product, how does at what are the core parts of this product that influences the user's experience in their journey, right? And how can we optimize to make sure we're offering and providing the best experience for these users, not just in the design phase, but having it in such a way that it is able to influence engineering decisions when they are deciding for the kind of tech they should use, right? So this is a good intro to give some kind of balance about what UX mapping is about. All right, so there are four commonly used UX mapping, and that is empathy mapping, customer journey mapping. So I added user flow because I feel like customer journey is literally like user flow, right? So empathy mapping, customer journey mapping, experience mapping, and service blueprint. Now, from empathy mapping to experience mapping, they're literally similar, right? But service blueprint is a bit technical. It is a bit not about the, okay, I'll get to it. So these are like the four commonly ones. And if you see from the description, from the image that I'm sharing, you see I've tried to get like examples of what all of those different mappings feel like, right? Um, so I got this so on this previous page, I added a reference to where we can learn more about this, right? And Nelson Norman Group is like a very key player when it comes to UX design, right? So I think this is afterwards this PDF, I'll turn this into a PDF and you'll be able to click on this link to open to learn more, right? So I got this image from Nelson, but this better helped explain what all of these different types of UX mappings are about. And you can see empathy mapping, you can see it's a bit different. It helps you see say, think, does, and feel. It helps you understand what the users say, how they think, what they do, and how they feel, right? But I'll get into each of them individually step by step, but hope this helps. All right, let's go into empathy mapping. So empathy mapping helps team members understand the user's mindset, right? It is that process that helps, it is like a tool, right? That is used to articulate what we know about a particular type of user, and it helps, it externalizes users' knowledge in order to create a shared understanding, and two, to aid decision making. So for empathy map, it helps us understand what the users are thinking, how their thoughts are influenced, right? And helps us properly articulate what type of user this is. So who is this user? What type of user is he? Is he like is he going to be a one-off user? Is it going to be a long-term user? What is it about this particular user? This gives us some kind of, it's like a tool that helps us properly articulate clearly who our users are by understanding the way they think. So it is based on understanding the mindset of the users. And if we're able to understand their mindset, it's easier for us to align their mental models to with what is better. It's easier for us to align their mental models with the mental models of our product to help us create an experience that doesn't feel very new to them, or an experience that is easy for them to just come on board and feel familiar to and get on board easily. So now there are characteristics of empathy mapping, and I listed a few of them here, and one of which is that it is split into like four quadrants, which is to understand what the user says, what they think, what they feel, and what they do, right? So it shows users' perspective regarding the task related to the product. So it is where you have a particular series of tasks and you try to get users' perspective based on those four quadrants, right? And it is literally something that helps us understand our individual user personas, right? So when we've done our research and we've created user personas, we will then use the empathy map to kind of understand, to categorize our user personas, to understand the mindset of these individual user personas that we've created, how to think, who this type of users are, right? Um, so this is an example of an empathy map. So you see here we've got our user who is Jamie, and then we try to understand what Jamie says, what she does, and what she thinks and what she feels, right? So you see this one on a conversation with her, and I'm saying, looking at the conversations that I've had with Jamie, and I'm saying for example, I was expecting something different. Listening to the conversations that you've had with the user, and trying to isolate or group or separate all the different things that you've said. Remember empathy mapping, when we did empathy mapping, where we spoke about breaking down conversation. Did I take you with empathy mapping? Okay, I think you must have had empathy mapping in this class where it is about the breaking down the conversations that we've had with users into smaller bits and making sense of them, right? Breaking them down and aligning them with different similar touch points, right? So I wrote here why we use them. So for example, we use empathy map to build empathy for the users, to help us see the pain points that they've gone through and what influences those pain points so that we can better feel their shoes and help them solve for it, right? So this helps us with like a good understanding of what type of user it is that we're working with, and it is again used at the beginning of a design process. It is important that it is at the beginning of the design process because obviously it helps us. All of the different types of empathy are important at the beginning part of the design process. So the next we have is customer journey. Now, customer journey maps helps focus on the specific customer interaction with a product or service. And like a customer journey map is a visualization of the process that a person goes through in order to accomplish a particular goal tied to a particular business or product, and is used to understand and addressing customer needs and pain points. So I feel customer journey is a lot like user flow. So it is in this point customer, I think you can just replace it with like user, so because the customer is like the user, so it's literally like user journey mapping. And but there are different terminologies. It could be customer journey, and I think it as well it can be user journey mapping. So it helps us focus on the specific user interaction at with a product, right? So it is I'm going to share examples of this, like live examples, and I think I'll try doing one and show you. I'll show you one I've already done on Figma and share with you how it's done. So basically it helps us break down the experience, the step-by-step projected experience that the user is supposed to take. And this way, this helps us with user testing, because when we've created an expected experience, right? When we then go out to do UX user testing, right, with the users, we can then see if the users follow a different path than what we've already defined, that, oh, if the user clicks to log in, they click here, they click here, they click here, right? If the user go through a different part, it's easy for us to draw our investigations and align our thoughts with where the user might have dropped off or why they dropped off. But if we do not have like a user journey created, we may not be able to. It will not be easy for us to test our design process, or to test our users journey, our users experience when we are creating user testing. But when we already created one with what the expected best experience is for the user, when we go for user testing, it would help us know where we need to optimize. If we find that, oh, the users are going to a different direction, we're like, okay, why do they go to a different direction? Which gives us like a place of interest to do more research to understand why the user do not go through the normal expected experience. What is it about this user that makes them go through a different route, right? So it is used to basically bring clarity to our thoughts about how the user should flow. And it saves us time. For example, I was working on a project where I wanted to create like an app, and I didn't have like a user flow. But because I didn't have a user flow, it was difficult to I already designed. I had like a list of features for what needs to be done, and different screens, different pages that has to be done. Then when I was working that way, it was terrible, because I ended up designing a full project and realized that when I handed it off to the engineers, there were issues, and the issues were, um okay, we've created an experience for how the user, you've shown me a design for how the user signs up, um they click on sign up, they put their sign up details, and then they sign up here. But what happens if what happens if the user puts a wrong email? What happens when the user wants to log in? Let's say I provide for forget password and all, right? Okay, what happens when the user clicks tries to delete something? What happens when the user tries to do something and it doesn't work? What happens when the user tries to take this action and it doesn't work, right? So all of those extra user experiences. So the main I focus a lot on the UI, creating all those screens, and I didn't realize that there were some small bits of experiences, small bits of stops, of yes and no, of true and false, right, that the user would need to take, and we need to plan for those experiences, right? And creating a user flow or a user journey helps us predict ahead of time what users are supposed to do and cater for every possible use case that the user would encounter. For example, if it is like, for example, I'm saying, okay, I'm creating an onboarding screen, right? If the user clicks yes, this is what happens. If the user clicks no, this is what happens. If the user doesn't, if the user gets to a point and the user does A, this is what happens. If the user doesn't do A, this is what should happen. If the user doesn't do B, this is what should happen, right? So it helps us break down everything that happens if the user takes an action or an inaction. I don't know if this makes sense, right? It is helping us break down every possible thing the user would do and help us solve for cases for when users run into challenges or conflicts or do not understand a particular thing, right? Um, how different is this from user? So customer journey is user journey, right? The difference is just a choice of words, and I think it's just a terminology thing. But in UX design, our customers are referred to as users, right? So literally I'm going to replace this with user, but so user journey and customer journey, we can refer to them as the same thing, right? But the value of it is extensive. But there was when I worked on a different project and I created a user flow, as in from the user flow, you can begin to understand if this experience would work. You can begin to prioritize how many screens you need to create. You can begin to prioritize and say, oh, I don't think this screen is necessary based on my user research. I've created this flow. How valuable is it really, right? I think to touch down a bit on this point, I should share an iterative version of of a user flow that I worked on. The beginning, so my user flow had like an iterative version, which even influenced my decision making. All right. Right now I'm going to share. I'm sharing my screen to show a user flow of one project I worked on. To just give you context of the problem. So a a I'm creating a mobile app for charity volunteers. Charity volunteers like giving charity and like volunteering to charity. So I'm creating a mobile app that encourages charity volunteers with opportunities to keep giving and to keep doing charity while I nudge them to 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 care for their mental health, right? So, but in that journey, initially I'd created a user journey, a user flow, right? Or user journey where I I wrote down, okay, what are the screens that are important? Oh, we have the wallet page and all. And then initially I created this whole wallet experience where if you see an opportunity to donate to somebody, you can donate and give cash, and then you can go to your wallet and then fund your wallet. If you have funds in your wallet, it would take the fund and give you a success message. But if you don't have money in your wallet, it will prompt you back to add funds, right? And then when you add funds, you select the amount, you select your bank, you confirm, and then success, right? Now, I created this entire wallet flow experience, which typically makes sense if you're creating like an app where users are able to a charity app where charity volunteers are able to find ways they can give charity to other people and help them, right? But then after creating this thing, I started designing for it though. And then I went back to my user flow and then realized I went back to my user persona and said, my users are charity volunteers, but one thing I realized from the user research was that most of the charity volunteers were unemployed, and but they were volunteering to charity activities, and the kind of charity activities they were volunteering for were opportunities where you don't get to give cash, where they instead give their time or they give their skill, like they volunteer their time to work at charity shops for free and help give some things out to people for free, but they were not giving any charity financially. So it didn't make a lot of sense for me to offer them opportunities for them to donate money when 60% of my user personas were unemployed, right? But I was not able to see it since when I was writing the list of features for this app, the ability to donate money seemed like a good idea to me, right? But after creating a user flow and seeing the experience, right, and comparing with my user research and my user persona, I was able to tell that adding a wallet experience and adding the donate experience for my users to be able to donate cash wasn't the best experience for them because they're unemployed, meaning they can't afford to give money, but they can give their time. So this helped me refine my user flow from this long thing to just this. It's now simplified. So initially I had wallet opportunities, all these things, but now I have this, right? And I don't have wallet anymore. Instead, I have inbox. So I switched the opportunities in such a way that I present activities to charity volunteers where they can volunteer to give their time, give a hand, give their skill towards any charity opportunity. And when they're done, I'm able to nudge them to reflect on it and have some kind of meditation and then a journal noting and finish, which takes them to a journey page and this. But if for instance, if I say, oh, I'm going to volunteer to teach maths class or mathematics lessons to someone preparing for WAEC, right? When I've done that, instead of having a wallet feature, I have an inbox feature. When I opt into support, I have an inbox feature for the person that requested that charity to reach out to me, and we can go in an inbox to discuss the details of how I can help, instead of having a wallet feature for me to pay in money and pay to people. I don't know if you see how this has the iterate how my user flow had changed. From my entire design experience changed because I was able to gain clarity, which I was able to see when I laid this out in the user flow, right? Um, Back to the presentation. I don't know if this helps give some kind of clarity on how important it is to have like a user flow, because it helps you invest in seeing what the challenges may be before you now invest time into creating all the design. So imagine if I already spent a lot of time designing all this wallets experience and now find that I don't necessarily need it and it's not particularly helpful or a priority feature for the kind of users that I'm targeting, right? So if it's for a global charity event like Kickstarter or Kickstarter, I'll be giving money mostly. So it makes sense for that kind of activity. But since the people I'm targeting are unemployed and they give their skill and their time more than they give money, that didn't make sense for me to continue with it, right? So yeah, so this is an example of when to use it and why to use it, right? So it is to help pinpoint specific user journey touch points that causes pain or delight. If I share, okay, let me share this again. So this can help us see different areas where users may be experiencing a particular issue or challenge. Okay, there's another UX that I'm going to share that would give a better insight on how this helps with the pain points and help you see the different places where the user may have an issue or where they may encounter an error, and how you can now try to make that experience better. But because of time, I'll try to maximize it. So at the end of it, I can then go back to every example and share with us. Experience map. Experience maps are experience maps generalize the concept of customer journey customer journey maps across user types and products. But experience map is like a visualization of an entire end-to-end experience with a generic person that a generic person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. Like this experience is like of a specific it is just to understand like the general human behavior, as opposed like the user journey map, which is more specific and focused on like a specific user area in a product, right? Let me just give an example of how this is. it is used to understand, with empathy map, it was used to understand the user's mindset. And with user flow and with user journey and customer journey, it is used to understand the user's pain point. It is used to help us find areas in the user experience that user may experience pain or may be excited about, right? But with experience mapping, it is used to help us understand human behavior, how humans behave, not their mindsets now, but how they behave, right? It's like a baseline. It creates like a baseline understanding of how, of an experience, of how a product will be experienced, basically. And here's like an example of it, but I'm going to share more other examples right after. But when I share this presentation, you guys can go through it and go into different details about it. Now with service blueprint, like I've said, it's a bit technical, but it focuses more on like processes, but with like with it is like an, how do I put it? It is based on um it is a bit complex, right? It is how do I explain it? Um um it is used to explain. All right, maybe it'll be easier to share like let's see, to share like an example. Okay, to share like an example of it. It is used to discover like weaknesses in a product, right? And help identify opportunities for optimization. But they're a bit similar, but this is a bit more technical, right? And but I think we're going to use a bit more of user journeys, customer journey in your early part of the project. But this part is used to document um at a higher level what the experiences are and how you solve for them in different parts of a particular process. um it is more, let me get you a better example. um okay. um I would have to update this particular presentation with the examples. It's I'm not able to find a suitable one. Come on. All right. Okay, let's talk about the steps that are necessary before you begin like empathy mapping. Then we'll jump into FigJam, and I can show you there are already some templates already across all the different types of mapping. Figma already has like templates and example that you can jump into. But before jumping to use those templates and examples, it is important to understand when to use them, why to use them, and the things that you should consider before you decide on which ones to go for, right? And one of which is comparing with what you want to do. Do you want to solve for a current experience, or do you want to create for a projected future experience, right? And so one of the three primary things to consider is if you're doing this user flow for a current, to map out what the current actual day-to-day experience is supposed to be and what the future expected one is supposed to be. So this involves like it is like a reflection of the current state, or a reflection of what the desired state should be. So I was working on one project, and okay, I think I need to stop sharing my screen so I can pull it out. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can find it, and then I would share it again. I was working on one of the projects that I shared with us last week, no, on our last session rather. Um, we could see that. Sorry guys, I'm trying to pull a good example. Okay, all right. So before that, let me let's see. Sorry. Yep. All right. So a good example is I'll find it and I'll share with us. But a good example is, for instance, I am presented with an opportunity to redesign a website, right? So a good example of this is if I'm trying to get for current state is where I'm trying to create a user flow or of the existing product, right? So I can see clearly what this existing product user experience is. That way it makes it easy for me to then pull out the pain points of areas that I think are not great, or the areas where I think can be better optimized, right? Or if I'm creating, it's either I'm creating for an existing product and I'm trying to map, I'm trying to understand the problem, or I am creating a future expected desired experience for how the user's flow is supposed to be like, right? Yes. Okay, so where did I save that? I did. Okay, so I shared like a UX audit with us on our last session. I think I can pull that from there. One sec. In the UX audit, you see that when creating like the user flow was what helped me to um to have the insight enough to map out what the many pain points are. And I think it'll be very useful to share this with us. 1 second, trying to share it with me. Sorry. Here. Okay. Sorry guys, just one moment. This will be helpful to better explain. Yes, it will. All right. So it's on my other computer, so it's a bit hard to swap from two. Okay, yeah. I've got the link. Right. Yes, so can you see my screen? All right, so in this UX audit that I try to do, so you'd see one of the outcomes of the UX audit was a service map and some accessibility guidelines and things like that. So this is a service map of the existing website, which I was able to, you'd see some notes. Okay, this will be better in it this way. All right. All right, so this is the existing sitemap of the current website, right? So I had to create a sitemap of the current website, breaking all the pages down from one step to another, and that helped me to then find the areas that we needed to optimize for. So you see, for example, on where did I get this from? Okay, so yes, from the notes, let's take this for example. So when the user clicks on book tickets on book tickets button, right, the page scrolls down to a section at the bottom of the page showing an option to select tickets, right? Instead of instead of how do I recall this? Okay, so yes, I was able to create like the entire sitemap of all the users experience with all the different pages that they go through, and that helped me see certain areas that were not the best experience. For example, here I was able to note that the payment process was too long. I don't recall why I brought this out as a note, but um yes, okay, on this note here, I mentioned saying that on click the open on click the on a new page displaying on click the page open on a new page displaying like options filtered by and with options to filter by, and the proper UX will be to merge them into like a filter so a user can filter and remain on the same page. Okay, so I think the challenge here was when you click on this page where it's supposed to be the listing page, you had cards that said something like click to explore by topics and click to, so they were basically filters, but when you click on those filters to explore by a topic, those filters will open a new tab where and will be and then you'll be able to see the filter options. Like, and you wait for you to go back to the other filter, you have to go back to the previous page on a different tab and click on another filter, which will take you to a new page. And my recommendation was that was a terrible experience, right? So it made sense to just have all those filters function in a way that they are on the same page, and when you click on the filter, it just refreshes the or rearranges the results instead of opening on a new tab to show you the selected results, right? But most importantly, I was able to find loopholes in the experience for how this payment process was so long. Booking of tickets, like when you want to book tickets, you select all this thing, add to baskets, you continue, you go all the way down, you'd have to add a card. If add a card, if you save for you to add like a debit card, you can't even just pay. You have to add the card, save the card, then come back to either saved, then add the CVC, then submit payments. Right? It was like a very long process. And even when you've done this, when you want to add a new card, it takes you to add a card, sign one consent. This consent was like a new different page, takes you this step by step, which was a very long process, right? And I try to break them down into smaller bits to explain the different challenges for them. So this was like a sitemap of the existing site, where I would then from this sitemap I was able to come up with different like pain points for things that were not great and could be better, like the filtering, sorting, and information architecture. But I was able to notice this. So yeah, here's where I began to give a report of how on the current website there are options to explore teachings by topic, this and this. However, when a user clicks on these buttons, they are taken to a new page, right? Which we and let's this is up to the app. So at every Hello guys, sorry for the break. I had some internet issues with my VPN. Right. Okay, so sorry guys, for the break and communication. So I was talking about the difference between hypothesis and the hypothesis versus research, and how that is a major consideration when we're considering UX mapping. So I spoke about hypothesis mapping, which is that it's based on accumulation of existing understanding with like your team, right? And this approach is like a great way to merge multiple existing views and perspective from your team to create like a research plan, right? But it is hypothetical, right? It is not it is like just to make like a first step towards getting a higher fidelity or research based map. So it is based on what the insight of your team members and ideas and what they think. It's purely hypothetical. So but research mapping is usually based on data gathered from specifically gathered specifically for building like the map. And this approach is best when when there's like a time and resources dedicated to creating like an actual research plan. But while this method is like create like the best maps, it takes like time and significantly run for like a longer period. But regardless of where you start, like the maps should be iterative and consistently grow and improve based on the findings that you get. So hypothetical is so those are like the two different considerations. Either it's like if you have more time and budget for it, you can go with the research based mapping. But if there's not enough time, you can begin first with like your hypothesis and what your understanding is, right? And then that can grow. And because UX process is like iterative, that can grow into becoming a more sophisticated research-based decision makings, right? And then another consideration is between the low fidelity or high fidelity, right? So low fidelity maps are usually unpolished and they are usually like sticky notes. I'm going to share an example of what this looks like. And they are like, and I think it is helpful because they help you, and you can do them on like paper, like sticky notes. You just write what you want to write, stick, 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 and they are best for like workshops and when you're having brainstorming sessions with your team. It's easy for you to just take out one part and then replace it with write a new part with the marker and say, okay, no, in this part, this is it here. And then when you're looking at it on the wall and then you guys are thinking and saying, oh, okay, here, we see that this, so either of them can work, depending on the environment that you find yourself in and the quickest possible option for you to use. High fidelity versions are versions that we create with like FigJam on Figma, or we create with Adobe XD, or other with Miro, or with other like design tools, right? This is an example of what a low fidelity UX flow looks like. This is the low fidelity UX flow I did for before I went that I did for the UX flow I showed you guys about. So this is where I started. This was my desk at school. I was just writing down using sticky notes to put on a white piece of paper all the different things, the different steps, and this helped me get my ideas in check. But afterwards, when I kept improving on what I believe the user's experience is supposed to be, was when I now moved to make it move from a low fidelity to a high fidelity. So this here is literally the same thing here, but it's you see that it slightly had changed when we moved from this phase to the other phase. So initially we have wallet, withdraw, this. We had select opportunity, view this, and take action. But here you see we have journey and incomplete. Yeah, we still have wallets, add funds, and every different steps that were similar there. So you see here when I got to this part, donate, select, payment, I'm not able to. This is like a low fidelity version of everything, but I can just take away the sticky notes and write another thing on a sticky paper and then stick there and say, oh, in this place this is how it's supposed to be. So this is the low fidelity type is effective for like workshops where every member of the team can work on it together. So this in this case, you don't need your team to know how to use Figma or be technical enough to give their input. This is usually great for for creating like a workshop session with the stakeholders. So stakeholders are like, say, the founders of companies, CEOs, salespeople. They don't necessarily have to know how to use your design tool, but the limitation with FigJam is that your team would need to have some kind of knowledge, or you'd have to run them through on how they can use FigJam or Miro or any tool that you're using to create this so they can follow along. But this is usually more effective when you're working in a team and you're trying to brainstorm what the UX flow or the customer journey is supposed to be like, right? The manager can just take like a sticky note and write and then stick on the wall. Someone can just take, right, okay, I think on this place it should be like this, and they stick on the wall. This way you have everybody involved in the process regardless of their design tool um um proficiency, right? Basically. So that's it, guys. So like a conclusion, right? All UX, I think I can leave this for you guys to go through in the presentation, but it is that the UX mapping have like similar benefits, right? But if the process of creating user maps usually focus on conversion and align mental models, it is basically for 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 you to gain clarity and align your expectations and thoughts of what the user's experience is supposed to be like, not just for yourself to gain clarity, but also for the rest of your team members and other stakeholders necessary for the success of the product to have aligned clarity on what the expected direction is supposed to be. So that's it, guys. I'm now open for like any questions, but I may not be able to take a lot because I think we've run into time. So, but any questions, I can begin to take them now. So yeah. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay, okay. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, okay, okay. Louis Jasmine. Nice. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, if you think of any question, again, we can have them on Slack. I'm going to share this document right away on Slack, and I'm going to share the other document I promised you guys. Sorry, I wasn't able to send it, and some of you tried to reach out to me on Twitter and some on LinkedIn. So sorry, guys. It's been like a crazy week for me. I just got distracted with work, and when I begin on Monday, it's difficult to get out of that zone. So, but yeah, I'm going to share this right away. I'm exporting it as we speak, and I'll share it on Figma. I mean, I'll share it on Slack so that we can have access to it. I'm exporting right away. But if there are no questions, we can, even if you think of any question afterwards, you can reach out to me on Slack. I'm going to post this on Slack so you can add the comments underneath the presentation that I'm going to share. Yeah, so I've exported it and I'm going to share it. All right, so I have yes, so all right, so I've exported it as a PDF and I'm going to share with us. We can go through it. And we can always reference back to it in case you forgot something that I spoke about, but I think it'll be helpful. All right, so that's it. Where are you? Oh, check the chat. Oh, interesting. Thanks so much for the questions. What is the difference between user journey map and user flow? Okay, I don't think there's like a difference. I think they're the same thing. User journey and user flow are the same thing. It is just different words, right? But think of it this way. the user journey from how the user moved from point A to point B in the product to point C to point D is a flow, right? It's how the user flows through the product. And the user journey is the user flow is the same thing, like it's how the user moves from one point to another point of the product and how they're experiencing the product from different points in time. So user journey and user flow, they're the same thing. They're just different use of words, basically. And we have it in UX. We have a lot of a lot of UX jargon that kind of contradict themselves, but they're literally the same thing. We kind of mute ourselves. Okay. I think there were questions on the chat above. Okay, I'm not. I can't see the chats above because I logged out a bit and I came back on. Do you have a question from B? Okay, sorry, a question from Olusegun. Will links to tutorials on how to do these mappings be on the presentation? Oh, they are not on the presentation, but okay. I'm going to add my top 5 best tutorials that I think will be helpful. And I'm going to share here that if you're going through any tutorials on YouTube or anywhere, try to search for tutorials that are like 5 minutes, that are not more than 5 minutes, right? And what that does is, the advantages of that is you'll be able to find that way. You streamline the amount of searches that you find to videos that, or with tutorials that are short, like 5 minutes, are able to explain in simple details what all those things are and not bore you. It's easier for you to grasp the information in 5 minutes than for you to listen to a 1 hour long video tutorial. Like you may get tired and you may lose interest. So I'm going to share. I think that's a good idea. I'll add some tutorials that I think will be very helpful, and they'll all be under 5 minutes, right? And if you're looking for even more tutorials, search around that duration, because they will break it down, simplify it, and it'll be easy for you to get. They'll just give you a summary and you get an understanding. Yep. So another question from B: do you have to do all 4 types of mapping while working on a project? Seems like experience mapping and customer journey are somewhat alike. You don't necessarily have to do all of them. They just come in at different times of necessity. So, but usually, depending on what you're working on and what the project is about, you get to do primarily empathy mapping and customer journey, and user journey or customer journey or user flow are the 2 primary ones that you have to do at the beginning of a project. But again, it's a bit flexible because depending on the goal or the objectives of the product, right? You may not necessarily have to do all of those. Like the people that are going to do like the service blueprint may not necessarily be you as a UX designer, right? But again, it depends on the project you're working on and the budget of the budget of whatever product you're working on, the resources available, right? But the 2 primary types of mapping that are essential if you need to, if that are essential if you have to begin a project, is the empathy map and the user journey mapping or the customer journey map, which is the same thing as a user flow. Hope I answered that question. Okay, so if it's possible to try to share those questions again, because I logged out for like a minute, and so when I came back in, I came as a guest. I didn't sign in, so I'm not able to see the previous chat from when I left and when I'm back. Can I share the link to our user journey map so you can access it from my team? Okay. Yes, you can. You can share it on the chat, so I'll see if I can access it. What's the difference between all the UX mapping and information architecture? UX mapping is again is to understand, is to find, is to map out the different flow of how the user moves through and experience the app, so that we can identify what their pain points are, identify and understand how they think and how they behave, right? Well, information architecture is basically a process of how you arrange or prioritize information. So it is information architecture has to do with how you structure prioritize, and arrange information. So it is not the same as user flow. It may, so it's a bit there's a bit of information architecture in user flow, but in the way it is that it is like it comes in where you get to prioritize what experience or which experience comes in before what experience. Like, how do the user experience, is it better to bring the onboarding first at the early stage of the user's experience, or should I bring the onboarding when the user's already signed up? So that's how information architecture can influence user flows, but in itself they're not the same. And information architecture is, for example, a good example of information, okay, let me just share, is where you're trying to arrange like the sitemap. The user flow can even help you better arrange your information architecture, because in information architecture now is when, okay, a good example of that is when I'm trying to decide what the menu structure of my e-commerce website is supposed to be like. So what are the pages that I have? How do I structure that? Let me share my screen. Let me use examples to better explain these things. So let's say ASOS is an e-commerce fashion store. And a good example of information architecture is, now we have different pages on ASOS. ASOS have like maybe hundreds of different pages, right? So, but information architecture is how I take all this complex information and arrange them structurally based on prioritize them and create them in a certain type of hierarchy that makes it easy for the users to be able to go through those information. So a typical example is with like e-commerce menus. So this, when I click on women, these are okay. This mega menu is a good example. Under all of the menus that ASOS have are categorized primarily into two major links: women and men. Now, when I go to women, underneath, I'm under women by default, and I'm underneath sales. I'm saying all of the different, how I'm structuring all this information and where they should fall in. Okay, for example, I have clothing, I have shoes, I have all of this, but they are even integrated into themselves. So shop by I structure all, take all the links with all the categories that they have, and it's okay, all of this falling under clothing, this falls in under, this should fall in under product, this should fall in under this, even under sports, where we have activity, we have gym training, we have Adidas, we have all these different things. Like, this is information architecture. It is not user flow. It is arranging, it is like the design of information in such a way that the design and structure of information in such a way that it is showing, it is presenting the most valuable information based on, and prioritizing the information the right way in a good hierarchy that is more valuable to the users. I don't know if that makes a good sense. Yes, that's it. You're welcome, Noah. So guys, sorry, if I know you must have asked questions in the early session, in the early part of the session, if it's possible. I don't know if I answered the questions while I was explaining, but if I didn't, you can just try post them again in the chat so I can see them, because on my end, I can't really see them. So let me show you an example. If I click on charts, you see I can only see from Oreolua at 10:30, but I can't see anything above of that, only all of this. Oh, my Slack inbox. Let's see. Okay, please briefly shed more light on empathy map. I've shared a link to my user James journey. Okay, I'm trying to. All right, I am there. Let me share my screen so I can see. Okay, I'm on your I'm on your user flow. I'm on your user journey. Okay, what am I looking out for? Okay, the user is on the. Can you unmute so that you can talk me through? Then I can access. Um, can we? Can you help me unmute? What's his name? We share this link. Can you help me unmute Olayinka so that he can talk me through his user flow? Design pal. Okay, design pal, can you please help unmute Ola? Okay, let me see if I can
I'm
unmute
here. I'm
Olayinka.
here. I'm here.
Locked on participants.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Parklins? Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you, design pal. All right, Olayinka, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Olayinka, I think you can unmute now.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Olayinka.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Olayinka, can you try to speak so I can hear you? Design pal
Yes.
has unmuted
I'm
you.
talking. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Olayinka Abdulaziz, I believe.
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Olayinka, are you speaking?
Yes,
I
we
can't
can
hear
hear
you.
you, Olayinka.
Okay. Can go on. Sorry, I can hear you now.
Okay. So basically, this is the Ronda mobile banking app, and basically this was like just a rough sketch before we started doing our wireframes, our digital wireframes. So we didn't start from the onboarding and there, but we just started from okay, when you just launch the app, we have not put the onboarding screens there about. But let's assume after the onboarding and you want to get started. So we're working with the functional requirement given to us. That's the brief given to us already.
Yeah.
On what to do. That's the requirements. And from the launching of the app, they said that's the according to the brief, it was like the role login there at the top. So they said a user can open an account directly from the app, unlike the traditional banks that we have that you have to go into the bank and create. But now you can actually open an account. Putting into consideration that some of these new apps that we have now,
Yeah.
they would actually be the one to generate the account for you. So, but in this case, you can be able to open an account yourself. And you can also choose to neglect that part if you already have an account with the bank. So that's why I actually did two arrows going to opening an account and one going to just signing up or logging in for the app itself. So there are two ways that you can go. Or let's just say three ways you can go when you launch the app, like after you've gotten started. That is to open an account with the app, maybe with the bank, or you sign up for the application itself. So in this case now, the first arrow is leading to open an account. So you either open with BVN or without BVN. So basically, yeah, the whole process is still opening an account.
Okay.
So for the app, if you already have an account, you can either sign up and start as a new user on the app, or you log in as old user.
Okay. So
So
yeah.
okay,
Okay.
should I
So
continue?
yeah. So briefly, before you continue, I already spotted some like a place that may be confusing. So
Okay,
when
hold
the
on, let me get the
user,
pen.
all right. So you need to be able to build the user flow in such a way that even if you're not there to explain it, somebody can go through it and get a good understanding of how it is supposed to go. So when I see
Okay.
on the launching app and then there are two links to link to display, so how is it going to be? Is it that this call to action is the call to action on the landing page? For example, let me just create this quickly. Is it that, how do I, where are you?
I'm
Okay,
here.
yeah. No, not you, not you. Okay, so for example, is it that we're going to have say,
Should I show you the wireframe of what it looks like?
sorry, one sec. Is it that we're going to have 3 call to actions that says open an account, sign up, or this, right? So that's the part that may be a bit confusing. So if I
Okay.
before you go, if I just duplicate this, one sec, I would go through the wireframes. So if I duplicate this and come here, so it would be that maybe unless it's how I think the experience should be, is that okay, when the user clicks on the app to launch the app, they see a call to action to either open an account,
Okay.
right? And then they see already have an account. All right, so the user opens the app, right? There are two primary things. There are two primary use cases. Is either the user does have an account or the user does not have an account, right? So if the user has an account, if the user doesn't have an account, then it will link from here to here.
Okay.
You get not from the launching app to here. So it's going to link from here to. Why are you shaking? Right. So the user has an account. The user doesn't. This is even supposed to be user new customer right now. If the customer is new, it takes them here to, let's go back to the previous one. I say new customer, right? If he's a new customer, he gets to open an account, right? If it's an already existing customer, the call to action, or like this changes to sign up or register, right? Are you duplicating? You see, and all this, and then from sign up, all these other things can come together, right? So what I'm trying to say is, when the user launches the app, right, there are two primary things. Is that is a new customer, which means he has an account, or he doesn't have an account. So what happens if he has an account? In fact, this is like a good example would be user launches app, bank account, and then and then yes, no, right? So we have user has a bank account, and
Okay.
how do I why okay, yes and no. Why can't I do this from below? Okay, so you get my point. So user have launching app. User have an account, yes or no? User does not have an account. Um, user have an account, yes. If user have an account, yes, the option will be to either sign up or register. Do you get?
Okay.
In this broken down stages, it's easy for me to already, all those questions I want to be asking in my head when I'm going through it, like, okay, does this have an account? Does this have an account? They're literally being solved by here. So if user have this or this, let's say yes, sticks to, oh, user has an account, they can either sign up or register. Wait, sign up and register, don't they mean the same thing?
No, there are two different things according to the brief they gave us.
Okay, register is to register the application, right? And then
Yeah,
sign
to
up
have
is
is
accept.
create a new user on the app for the
So
application. Then login is returning user.
all right, so if the user doesn't have an account, that is where we bring this guy that says,
Yes.
you see, so you're literally asking the question yes or no, and then you are dragging in an account. You get?
Yes, I get.
So it is explaining, what's the word? Okay, so even before this register, it is this is register for the application, right?
Yes,
So,
more sign up.
yeah,
It's like sign up and register. Then the login is on its own, according to the brief. First time user, yes.
so this is going to be
Then the login was actually standing on its own, according to the brief.
yeah, I'm coming. So
All right.
so this says first time user, yes or no. So if it's first time user, the call to action we'll have will be to
Sign up.
no, register. First time app user will be to register for the app, right? And then
Yeah, which is like the sign up, according to the brief.
yeah, so but if it's not a first time user, that's if it's not a first time user, it's where he can then sign up or log in. You get this?
What I'm actually saying is that according to the brief that they gave us,
Yeah.
which is what I was actually came with, we have three things to do. Either we open an account, we sign up, which is sign up or register. That's what is on the brief. Then
Yeah.
or we log in.
Yes, I
So
get.
the sign up,
So what I'm saying
yeah, they're like
is,
together.
yeah, what I'm saying is because they say you can either register the app doesn't mean the register and the sign up have to be side by side in your user flow. You're not, don't, like, it's as though you're creating the user flow as if you're already designing it. That way you are going to be you'll unconsciously be designing the app in your head when you're creating the user flow instead of trying to tackle the problems in isolation of a possible design recommendation. Do you get?
Okay.
This is breaking down the
All right.
brief based on what the process is like, and to see at which of all these process and which of all these stages will be challenging for the user to go through, not creating the design and deciding which one will be together in the user flow
Okay.
already. Do you get what I mean? So
I understand.
we're
But the
saying the same.
question.
We're saying the same thing now with this user flow, but I'm saying it in isolation of any design recommendation. I'm not recommending design here. I'm just doing the process. I'm
Yeah,
saying
I know.
user
The
has an
question.
account, yes or no. If user has an account, if user have an account, I still have to confirm if he's a first time app user. If he's a first time app user, then he has to register the app. But if he's not a first time app user and he has an account, then he signs up
Okay.
and log in, right? So, but if the user doesn't have an account, the option is to open an account,
Open an account.
right? And that's where
Okay.
the sign up with BVN. Now you see again, if the user have BVN, he can sign up
Yes.
with BVN. If the user doesn't have BVN, you sign up without BVN. I say now there'll be a lot of yes or no, which are like breaks in the jigger instead of this way above here. I'm doing this based on user screens. That's why I'm already creating the screens and I'm deciding how the design will be. But here
Okay.
it is more, I'm focused a bit more on the process than the actual designing. I don't know if this
Okay.
helps.
Okay. I think
Because
I think like when we're designing this, we're focused more on how the screens would look like.
Exactly. So,
I
but
guess.
this way, if you focus on the experience, you see, I'm asking, that's why I'm asking questions and I'm
Yes,
answering
I
them
understand.
yes or no and showing what will happen.
Yes.
So, this way, if a product manager is reading and saying, okay, what happens if the user does not have an account? I'm saying I already asked that question and I said yes, no.
All
I'm
right.
giving
Yes.
this.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
just saying user have that way. I'm asking, I'm hiding the question in the flow and it's difficult for people to interpret it. This way,
Oh, okay.
even if I'm not
I
here
guess.
with you, you can be at these questions are what will be going through your mind. Okay, I launched this app. It does have an account, and I'm saying how the process solves for it. I don't even have to call you. I can say, okay, yes, he has covered for this. Yes, he has covered for this. You get-
Yeah, I get. Understand now.
All right. So with this, you can just extend it with all the different sections. Try to make it seem like a question. And what happens in that scenario? What happens when it doesn't go this way? What happens if it goes this way? Hope this
Okay.
helps.
Yes, I mean,
All right.
it's
Thanks a
very
lot.
really appreciate.
Sure.
But can I give you name of the what I had in mind when I designed this first, or what we had in mind when we designed this first? Can
Yeah.
I just so you just see it?
Okay. Okay. I have to share my screen again. I don't know how much time we have, so but yeah, it's fine.
Just one.
Okay.
Uh, okay.
So okay, are you sharing your screen? All right.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. So this is what I actually, this is what we actually had in mind when we designed what we worked on initially. The After the onboarding screen, the first thing is the major thing is to open an account, which is why we indicated in the button to be obvious. Then there's a question here saying got a Save Rider account. So you can either sign up or you log in. So that was what
Yeah.
we had in mind when we're doing all that.
Yeah.
So because we didn't have much knowledge on the mapping yet, because the class have not been held then.
Yeah.
So, but now I think go back to work on it.
Okay. So you can see from this screen that it doesn't cater for how the user can register if they're a first-time user on the app. So
For the first time user, yeah.
yeah, so it gives an option for me to open an account and for me to sign up and log in, but it doesn't give an option for me to register the app. If I already have a bank account, but I've not registered to use the app.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when we're working based on the functional requirements,
Yeah.
the sign up was actually what we had in mind was the register. Sign up is like the registering because
Yeah, I
according to the
understand.
functional sign up / register. If
Yeah.
you look at the screen here of the sign up, look at it like
Oh, I get you.
here you get, and this is what our login actually looks like.
Okay.
So that was what we had in mind, but we'll work on it. Thank you very much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Right. Okay. Oh, sorry. My speaker was on mute, so I couldn't hear Olayinka when he spoke before, but I can hear him now. All right, guys.
You can hear? Okay,
I
good.
can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
So
Um, should I say what I said before? There's no need.
no. I heard you. I heard you.
Okay, all right.
I heard you. All right. I hope this was insightful for you guys. I'm going to add those tutorials to the presentation and then share it on our Slack channel, so that way you can drop more questions and I'll try to be available for like 30 minutes to an hour and try to respond to any comments that you may have. I know I've not been responsive on the channel, but I'll be better. All right, guys. If nothing more, thank you for today's class and sorry for the technical challenges that we experienced. My VPN was fighting the was fighting this particular tool. I don't know, it does it frequently. It's just like a security feature. So yes. All right, guys. Thank you again. See you guys. I think I have another final lecture with you guys again sometime next month. But thank you guys, and please go through the presentation and watch the tutorials that I'm going to share in it. All right. Bye. Oh, all right, guys. I didn't know my video was turned off. All right, I'm going to share. I said I was going to share the presentation with you on Slack, and I'll add all the tutorials, links to like at least 5 tutorials that I think will be helpful for you to get better insight about this. And I'll keep sharing. I'll share more examples for what the different UX mappings are, and you guys can work on it and then share. I'll share my slide as a presentation. I mean, as a PDF on our Slack community. So you guys can go through it and share anything you have in mind. On that particular thread, you can add comments you have, share what you're working on, and I'll see if I can jump in and spend like 10 minutes on your FigJam file with you and try to see how it's going. I think that would make it a lot better, similar to how I jumped on Olayinka's file. I think it would be nice to review what you're doing and try to work on it with you. Right. Thank you, guys. I will share this particular slide. I'll share it today. I'll share it now. All right. Bye. Take care. Have an amazing week.